I have to say it's a personal favorite for mine. I am an avid but appallingly bad vegetable grower, but I am hoping to learn many, many tips here this afternoon. But yes, the panel is all about regenerative farming. It is definitely one of our major power tools in terms of decarbonization, in terms of the restoration of nature. And I can't wait to hear from all of you. I am deeply grateful for Philippe, for you pulling together this amazing panel. And I'm not going to take up another moment of time on this stage. It's all over to you guys. Thank you very much. Let's give them a warm round of applause.
Yeah, thank you all. Big pleasure to be here, and also great to see so many young people in the audience, because I think this is exactly what we need. We need to make farming attractive again, so hopefully some of you will go out of here with that idea. For me, it's a special honor today, because with Climate Farmers, we're working with farmers all over Europe and helping them in the transition towards regenerative agriculture. But this means that I have a very good understanding of the European context, but not of the global context at all. So I'm equally excited today to learn a lot from the other three amazing people that are with me, which are all driving the change towards regenerative agriculture in their own local context. And I would love for each of you to basically introduce yourselves, of course, what you're doing, but maybe also how did you get into this direction? What motivated you to move in the direction of farming and regenerative agriculture as a calling in your life, and especially in regards to climate change as well?
Okay, hi everyone. The energy is low. Hi everyone. All right, so my name is Balki Salaudin. I'm a social and climate activist, and I'm from Nigeria. I'm excited to be here, and thank you, Philip, for inviting me over LinkedIn. I got the invite, through LinkedIn. That's one of the tips. Make yourself visible. Let me start with that. So I got into the agriculture space fully last year through my partner, my husband. Before we got married, he loves agriculture. However, they've been doing it the conventional way, and they've had quite a lot of losses. And because of my experience as a climate activist, you can be a climate activist or advocate and not know about these things, climate smart farming, this, that. And I thought, okay, why don't we go the smart way? And we started climate smart farming in our little way on 3 acres of land towards the end of, I think we started August last year. And we saw the tremendous growth, and we invested more in it. Let me just say that climate smart agriculture is quite expensive, especially when you want to eat the market and you don't want to do it in the corner of your house. It's very expensive. So we had to spend a lot, millions in naira. And we've seen the changes, and is very excited about it. And we're also able to drive more young people into the system. So as I'm here right now in Egypt, the farm is still running. We have people who are managing it. And we're also able to empower women in the community to work with us. So, I mean, that's like the background story. So I basically joined this space because I'm married to a man who is passionate about it, and I need to support him to make it grow. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and I'm happy to be here with you to see those wonderful young future change maker in our planet. My name is Magid El Said. I'm the founder of Habiba Community. I'm graduated faculty of language, all my life working in travel industry. And then I here 170 kilometers north from Sharm el Sheikh in the city of Nueva. Whoever have the possibility to join and to visit are welcome. I started at Beach Lodge and then organic farming. And when I understand that the organic farming is not the right solution, although that in that time was the best practice, we went to the regenerative because through the organic farming, we are, although that it's a good practice, but we are degrading our land And that's why regenerative and agroforestry is the solution. And there is a lot that we are doing and learning. Our model is Habiba communities based on synergizing differences, food security, and education. It's enough. Yeah, I don't want to take more time. And yeah, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abigail Kima. I am from Kenya. Hi. I am a climate activist and also a young energy expert. And I do my activism through storytelling. I love stories. And I do this through a podcast called Hali Hewa. For the Kenyan, you know Hali ya Hewa is Swahili for climate or weather. And I've been interviewing climate experts and activists in the lead up to COP27 on various issues, including women in agriculture and gender, including just energy transition, loss and damage, everything in between. How I don't actually practice agriculture myself, but I amplify stories of people who are doing that. But I grew up in a farm. When, during holidays when you're traveling over summer, for us, when it came to the holiday in December, we had to be in the farm. So you have to harvest like 4 or 3 acres of land. And, I think you can relate, you know how that happens. So that is where I grew up. And I'm able to sit here because my parents could sell surplus of their produce to take us to school. So I've literally been brought up in a farm, and I'd say farming has made me who I am. So that's about it.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for that. So the topic of the panel is making farming sexy again. And when I was asked to host this session, this was the first topic that came to my mind. I never thought it would go through, especially not in a context like COP. So I'm quite happy that we have such a provocative title. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this one is because it's the main driver that we see for regenerative agriculture in Europe. So in the European Union, we have a massive issue with farming not being sexy. Young people don't want to go into farming. It's seen as a lower profession. Everybody wants to become a podcaster or an entrepreneur or a lawyer or a consultant, but nobody wants to become a farmer. And as a result of that, we have currently a farming population average of 58 years in the European Union. And same as in many other industries as well, old people don't like to change their ways. So we see that most of the farmers, which are in their 50s, they wouldn't want to realize that the move towards climate smart or regenerative agriculture is the right move, because it would also mean admitting that they've been doing something wrong for the last 30 years. So what we see is that within the farmer community that we work with, one of the strongest demographics is people in their 30s or 40s, so younger-ish people driving that change. And then we are here at the United Nations COP, so it's a global event, and this is why I love this unique opportunity to hear from you how this is in your context. Is it similar? Do you actually experience the same thing, that we have an issue of young people not wanting to go into farming? And then also, maybe especially for the two of you, first of all, because you're having your own farm, you're farmers, and I know that both of you are really good in involving young people and getting them excited on that farm. So I would love for each of you to explain what is your context and what is your experiences in getting young people into it, and and just share a few of the stories that you have. Maybe Manjit, you can start.
Yeah. So we have to understand first what happened that the young people don't want to go farming, because for many years we let the farmers lose their dignity. So that's why the people don't want to repeat the same profession of their fathers or grandfathers. And we and Habiba, we found an innovative solutions how we can approach that. So first of all, we give the dignity to the farmers and to let them understand the importance of the farmers. Without farmers, we cannot have our food. The food is not only on the supermarket. So that's why we engage a lot of people, and especially with the ecosystem restoration camps, that this is movement in different parts of the world, more than 50. So it's about regenerative agriculture, innovative solution, how to integrate the the community to understand the importance of the food, and it's easy to the solution is under our feet. It's all how to build our soil. One important challenge that faced the farmers around the world, that the input is higher than the output because they are farming, going to the market, they are challenging with the different people on the middleman. So we are encouraging from farm to door, or know where is your food coming from. So we are inviting everyone to either grow a part of his food, or to partner with a farmer, or to go to buy his food from a farmer. Only then we reinforce the farmers, and we show them that they can make economy out of their agriculture. And then the food processing, this is another thing, a value chain, adding value to the products. We don't need to export orange, but we need to export orange juice, okay, and so on and so forth. And in our community, the indigenous, the Bedouin, their survival, their grandfather, grandmother, they were using all the techniques that suitable for them, and it is vanished now. So we need again to revive this, and to like the date and the olive oil, and how to make the cheese. So to avoid that, we started to make the after-school learning center. So we are connecting the young from age of 5 years old till 11 years old with the farm. So the after-school learning center is inside the farm. And then how to make this sustainable. So we planted Majul palm date, that the community agree on the date. All the Bedouins respect the dates on the desert. So through the cash crop, which coming from the Majul, which is the most expensive date right now in the market. So this money goes to support the after-school learning center. So the people can see that there is value out of their farming. And then every family, like the backyard food gardens of the Bedouin women, especially the widow women, and then through the female volunteers and the intern that are coming to Habiba, they go to help them. So this interaction is very important, that the people see that, wow, there is value that we are doing, and we learn from each other. So you are coming from from Europe, you have the techniques or the knowledge, and they are living the Bedouins with their old knowledge, and this culture exchange, it make very important. For example, we cultivate cotton, so in the desert with drip irrigation. But why we cultivate cotton? The Bedouin women do the bracelet for, you know, that we are in a touristic area. So from seed to bracelet, and they are skillful to make the thread, okay? And so on and so forth in different things. So our approach is a holistic approach, and I invite you again to come and to meet young Bedouin farmers, that they are growing their own food, and they are, you know, it is based in cooperation, not competition. So you grow tomato, I grow cucumber, and then we exchange again, and then we learn how to make pickles, how to make jams, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for that wonderful insight and the work you do. So for us at Green Republic Farms, one of our key mantra is that we came into the agricultural space not as a competitor or competition with anybody, but we are here as a contributor. Because, I mean, I'm sure everyone, you've had breakfast today. No, right? No. No. You guys don't eat? Right. We've understand that a lot of people are out there that don't even understand what they're consuming. And what we do at Green Republic Farm is, aside from the fact that we spend hours on the farmland, we also spend a lot of time on digital. We have a very strong digital footprint. And that is because we have the knowledge and the power of storytelling. We want you to be able to go online and just understand what we're doing here, what we're planting, how we're planting it, the team that are doing it, how they're contributing their effort. So we're trying our best to make farm look beautiful. And one of the things I got a lot was whenever I post pictures from the farm, people will be like, oh, Bakis, you're not into agric, because these are high quality pictures, right? We go with cameras, we go with drones, and we do it like a shoot. Like, it's a big deal for us. And that's the way of us encouraging more people into this space. So you're not just farming. Even if you're doing a backyard farming, there are ways you tell the story, and it makes it really intriguing and exciting for other people to want to go into the space. So another way is making sure that your workers are part of the process. So for us, we don't just go and say, oh, this is the new way of doing this, or this is, we sit everybody down and like, what do you guys think? Okay, we're burning fuel on generator to pump water to ensure our irrigation system is working, this and that. How do you guys think we can make it better? How do you guys think we can cut costs and what have you? And that way, if you're not there, those guys working with you, they're able to come up with innovative ideas to feel like they're part of the process. And I also think that that would drive more people into the system, because a lot of time, even at the normal work, that people do, sometimes they feel disconnected from the system, and they're like, okay, when whatever the boss says, but you're coming into the agri space, and you know that this space is a space where I can add value, I can add my recommendation, my voice is being heard, it's meaningful engagement. So we put all of these things into consideration, probably because I'm an activist, right? And I understand what we keep agitating for. So it's very easy to replicate that at the farm. And aside from that, we also ensure that we build a community around it. So by next year, we're actually building a very beautiful space for children in the community to learn farming at a very young age. So this was an idea I came up with this year, because I've realized that this issue of young people not wanting to be a part of farming is because probably they don't even understand the process. One, they don't know that farming can be fun. They don't know that farming can be beautiful. Whenever I go to the farm, I don't have access to network. So I'm very excited that I'm not receiving emails, WhatsApp messages, and all of that. So it's like a relaxation center for me, right? And we want to make other children in that community to see it as that. So you learn from a very young age how you can be part of it. And that's why the women that harvest for us. So we have a system where whenever we plant, we use our farmers, right? But when it's harvest time, it's like ceremony at Green Republic Farm. It's like you are doing a festival. So we always have a lot of women that come and do the harvest, and we have their children. So most of the time, when I get to the farm and I see that these children are also harvesting, I'm like, no, I'm not doing child labor here. No, come out. So I bring them into the nursery. Then I do like a little sessions with them on how the process is, what do they need, do they want us to get them something, just to make them feel so comfortable. And that is how we are putting in the effort to include everybody, women, children, young people, into the process of agriculture in the farm. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing, thank you. And I would love, you touched on storytelling already, and we have an amazing storyteller sitting among us. So maybe Abigail, you can share a little bit more also about the podcast and how many experience you had there also in working with farmers and engaging young people to get active for climate change. And also maybe if you already had some touch points in the area of regenerative agriculture.
So as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a farm. And I think a lot of, or sometimes, farming is associated with poverty. And I say this because I was speaking about a month ago in a meeting, and I shared my story so passionately. And then the person that came next said, oh, you've reminded me of my poor grandparents in a certain country. And I was I was shocked because that's not the kind of message I was trying to pass. And when I saw the title, Let's Make Farming Sexy, I know for sure farming is not sexy because you have to get your hands dirty. And living in Nairobi, which is a city, I think I took for granted the fact that I could just walk into my mom's farm and pluck a spinach and, cook it. And there's that very fulfilling feeling of eating something that you have grown in your farm. So when I visited the western part of Kenya, a group of women who've come together to train themselves in very many non-machinery technology, which we would call regenerative agriculture. And I spoke to 24-year-old young mom who was living in a small town in Kenya called Bungoma, and she was working a 9 to 5 and was experiencing such trouble being able to feed her child and to pay her own bills. And culturally, at least where I come from, when you get to a certain age, your parents hand over a piece of land to you. So it could be like an acre or 2 acres. And when you're handed this land down from your parents, it means they see you're capable of taking care of yourself. With this piece of land, you can till the land, you can feed your family, and you can sell surplus. So where I come from, you can't actually sell food if you don't have something to eat at home. So you only sell the surplus. And so you see, land is such an important aspect for us. Like, it's once you've come of age, you're given a piece of land, get married, feed your children, you have a piece of land, you're okay, you can take care of yourself. So this lady who's 24 years old was struggling, and she decided to just move back home. And the dad handed her over a piece of land, 1 acre. And when I spoke to her, she had so much pride in her eyes because of the immense changes that have happened in her life since she moved back home and decided to practice agriculture. So we spoke to her at around 4 p.m. She was straight out of the farm, not looking glamorous or sexy, because she had just gotten her hands dirty. She had a trouser that was full of soil, but was happy to speak to us. And so she told us how, of course, with climate change, there's a lot of changes that have happened. We have the changing weather patterns. We have frequent droughts, like we'll have periods where there's no rain, and that is where we expected to plant. So we used to have a calendar that no longer works because of climate change. And so they were trained by an organization, and so they came together, and she has been doing a lot on her farm. She has a tree nursery where she grows her trees, and so uses those trees to sell and also plant in her farm as to practice agroforestry. She's also using a keyhole technique that is able to hold water. When there's long periods of no rain, it means if she's planted anything in that keyhole, it actually looks like a keyhole, I don't know how to call it, but a keyhole technique, and it's able to hold water, and she can still eat every other day. She can still get vegetables from her farm. She's also using a technology called raised beds. She's also using trenches. So she's just one person, and then there's so many other women in the community, and they meet on a weekly basis to just sit and check on each other and be like, hey, did you plant trees? Did you till your farm? Do you have a kitchen garden? Are you using compost manure? Because they're also moving away from the inorganic fertilizers. So when I sat with these women, I was so impressed because I see their lives and I see my life too. And without that training, most farmers, at least from where I come from, are losing their crops to the changing climate. So it was such a beautiful experience for me, and it's something that I thought everyone should learn about this. Everyone should actually implement it. And you see, for her, she had to move from the city to a small town to come back home, and she's able to feed her child. Like she was saying, there are periods where her child was eating 1 meal a day because you're in a city. There's literally nothing you can farm because it's full of buildings and full of concrete. And now she's able to take her child to school. She can feed herself. She can pay her bills and even has surplus to save. So I think if we look at agriculture as a way of culturally, making sure that you produce food with your own hands, and also the aspect that you can actually make money out of it. And when a country is food secure, if the farmers are well taken care of, if the farmers are well trained and they know what they should do, especially with the changing climate. So I'd say that is such a beautiful story that I learned from them, and I think everyone should hear it and everyone should visit and just see how much they can learn from a woman who has a piece of land, 1 acre, and making a difference for herself and her family.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for sharing that story. And some of you might be wondering, so the second part of the title is all about regenerative agriculture. Now, I have to, do all of you know what regenerative agriculture is? Maybe a quick hands up who hasn't heard the term before or who would like to learn a bit more about it. Then I can quickly explain this one as well. Yeah, who hasn't? Cool. Okay, so then let's tap into that one. So the reason why we believe that especially regenerative farmers can be the turning point in the fight against climate change is because agriculture is right now, as we practice, is one of the main causes for it. You might know that 24% of all greenhouse gas emissions are coming from agricultural emissions. The reason for that is the practices that we're using, especially in the last 60 years with industrial farming, with plowing, with use of chemical fertilizers like Monsanto, which you probably heard about. We started destroying our soils. So farmers were only paid for the yield that they are producing. They were not paid for building up soil health or punished for destroying soil health. What happens is if you farm in line with nature, as regenerative agriculture does, then you use the photosynthesis of plants, which take carbon out of the atmosphere, and through their roots, they store it deep in the soil. And then under the soil, you have a bazaar going on essentially, where the roots of the plants are trading through mycorrhizas, through mushrooms with other plants, and they're bringing that carbon out of the atmosphere and into the soil. So if we would increase global soil carbon by just 2%, we would be taking more carbon out of the atmosphere than we're actually emitting. So a lot of you have decarbonized standing on your t-shirts. The best way to decarbonize our planet is by working and farming in line with nature and using natural processes to take carbon out of the atmosphere. And that is the beauty of regenerative farming. So if we would all be practicing regenerative agriculture, we would actually be able to solve our way out of the climate crisis that we're in just by eating our food. And what I would love to hear more about, we have two active farmers here on the stage. So I would love for Margit and Balike to share some of the practices that you're doing on your farm to build up soil health and through that cleaning up all of our atmosphere.
Thank you very much for this. Very important. We don't need to invent the wheel, okay? So nature is always survived. So just we mimic the nature. We go. That's why we need say regenerate. We step back to avoid all the bad practices that we learned on the last 60 or 70 years. So what we do in Habiba community, it's about, first of all, integrating management of resources. So whenever you go on earth, look what is the resources that you have and how you can make the best out of these resources. So we are on the sea, by the beach, and we have the desert. First of all, there is no dead soil at all, anywhere. Every soil has its own microorganism, but they are dormant. So our role just to awake them up again. In our case, we have the seaweed that it comes out from the sea. We take this seaweed and it make miracles, this seaweed. So we wash it and then we put it in our compost. We use the manure coming from the goats of the Bedouin community. And then we have the flood that with the flood coming from the mountains with this soil, with this, it comes, and it has a lot of nutrition, magnesium, potassium, all the things that we need. Plus all the leftover that we are taking from our kitchen. And also I invite you to read a little bit about KNF, Korean Natural Farming. There's a lot to learn from there. So we need to mimic the nature, integrating what we have, and then to be patient to build the soil. And that's why we have the organic farm, and I have the regenerative farm. It's like 6,000 square meter. This is dedicated only for the educational purpose. the people, students, researchers, they come and everyone does what he believes that it is a good practice, etc. And it's the agroforestry. So you have the trees, you have the shrubs, you have the animal. We don't use any organic pesticide or any organ. I'm just leaving the nature to rebuild. And now, after 2.5 years, we see the results, and we can make comparison between the trees or the crops that they are coming from the regenerative farm. So the rule, healthy soil, healthy crops, and this is what go to our bodies, and then the whole cycle. It's like the nature. We don't need to invent the wheel. I would like just to say something more about the model of Habiba. So we are promoting agritourism, educational tourism, and volunteerism. And this is how we make the economy. And then we show the community that through responsible tourism that they come, and they have more value. They have the value of the money of the economy, but with the knowledge that they have and with the energy that they have, everyone teach one.
Thank you for sharing. So I think I'll start by saying that you can't do it alone, right? I might be a climate smart agriculture practicing person, like through my climate activism or what have you. But I'm actually a graduate of communications, and that's so diverse. So what we did was we brought in the experts, the guys that understand the agricultural language, the agronomists, right? And that was because I would want to go to the farm, no, I would want to go to the market and buy healthy vegetables and pepper for myself to eat. So we thought, how do we ensure that even though we're doing climate smart agriculture through the irrigation system and our mulching frame, control of water system and all of that, we ensure that whatever goes into the seeds, each of the seed, they are healthy. Because it all starts from the farm. Everything. It's the beginning is from us, like us, right? Before you guys consume whatever we give to you. So we make sure that that effort is there. And we do our compost ourselves. So that's why I would make emphasis again on engagement and training. So most of the young people that work with us, they don't have all of this knowledge before. So we bring in the expert, they teach them how to make a compost manual and what have you, and they do it for the larger, because now we're operating on over 10 acres of land. And imagine doing a manual for that. That's a lot, right? And that's because we're trying as much as possible to reduce the amount of fertilizers that goes into each of the plants. And another way of measuring this is we ensure that, so at the farm we have different tanks that goes into the irrigation system, and the guy in charge knows what time to on the pumping machine, pump the water for the circulation. So we also manage our water, and we ensure that we don't use excessive water for the plant. Because when you use excessive water for plant and you have the produce, that's where you have some of these produce, they don't last long when they're in your house. They start looking somehow because they have a lot of water in them, right? And probably some farmers are so careless that they put excessive fertilizers because they want to have a lot of yield from the farm. Exactly. So we try as much as possible to cut down on all of these things, because we're doing this thing intentionally, and we want to try as much as possible to do it the right way, and not because of the money we want to make out of it. We want to also make sure that whatever you're eating is healthy. And another thing I'll also touch on is the seeds that we use, they are very hybrid. So they go through the nursery process where we monitor the growth and we understand that, okay, this is what this needs, this is what that needs. And it also helps us to measure So sometimes we can do 30,000 seeds of habanero. Sometimes we can do 40,000 seeds of bell pepper and stuff. So you are able to manage and you're able to measure the amount of output you're getting from these particular seeds. And sometimes we realize that some seeds actually die from the nursery. So imagine just planting them directly. So we do open field. We don't have the greenhouse yet, and we do all year round farming, because we don't want to be in a situation where we're planting this month and we don't have produce next month. No. So we splitted our land into different vegetables. We have the cabbage, we have the cucumber, we have the habanero, we have the bell pepper. We have them like that. So at every point in time, there's something going out of the farm. And that's because we don't want any of you to get to the farm and say, there's no tomatoes, there's no habanero. We want you to always have it. And that would make me make a reference to a news I popped into my hotel room yesterday night. A country I can't remember, maybe it's in the Europe, I can't remember. So there's this man that they interviewed, that why is he selling at the market? And he said, I started selling at the market because the coffee I used to buy, I think he said 1 kilo is now, the half of 1 kilo is like 3 times the price he buys 1 kilo. So he needed to no way, I can't keep doing this. So he's now a seller, from being a buyer to becoming a seller. So a lot of people are seeing the effect, because farmers, trust me, as he mentioned, were directly affected a lot of time. Currently in Nigeria, we are faced with flood, and because we do open field farming, we are very scared, right? At every point, oh my God, I hope the flood doesn't take off the land and all of these things. So all of those things are there, and I would just advise, this is a personal advice. I was talking to someone earlier that the farm, as much as we've invested a lot of money into it, 95% of the resources, of the finances that's gone into it is from us. And that's because we don't want to be indebted to investors. You can't trust this climate because we're not taking climate action properly. So you can't really trust it so well. So you just have to be very careful of what you're putting into it, the finances that is going into it, so that you're able to manage it. And you know that, okay, I'm fine. I can go to bed in peace. No investor is going to come and say, oh, I don't care about the flood. I don't care about what happened to your farmland. Just come. And lastly, I'll just touch on how lucky that woman you just shared her story is. Because I wish I was her. I wish my dad would give me 1 acre of land right now and say, okay, this is for you. Just take care of yourself. Oh, my God. No, I'll be very rich. Yeah, because land is another problem. You see real estate taking over. You see a lot of people want to develop their community. They want beautiful houses. They want shopping malls. They don't want to give land to farmers. So it's always easier when you already have this, like this woman, and I wish her all the best. I mean, I'm so excited about this. I wish I'll visit her. I'm going to visit her. I mean, yeah, because it was so difficult for us. So when we started on 3 acres of land, we started on a family base. So we had this family friend that from the community, and we talked to his dad, and like, this is what we want to do. And the dad doesn't even stay there, doesn't like use the land. Okay, yeah, you guys can have it. And we did, and from there we started looking around. Let's buy this 4 acre. Let's buy that 5 acre. Let's buy. Because if we don't own this land, a lot of things are going into it. So you have to own a land, right? So it's always very difficult, and lands are very expensive. I don't know in your country, but in my country where I'm from, lands are very expensive in Africa. So I think those are ways we are putting in the effort to ensure that as much as we are having like maybe background challenges from land acquisition to ensuring that we don't use so much fertilizers and whatever, we still make sure that the priority at the end is for us to have a good, healthy farm produce for you and I to consume. And one thing I do with each of our plants is at every harvest, I take some, maybe we harvest tomato today, I'll take it to the house, I'll put it outside, and I'll monitor it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's still fresh. So that I know that if you're eating this tomato, you're good. If I'm eating it, I am good. So those are ways that I think farmers really need to pay attention to those things. So you just don't harvest and just take it to the market like that. Do some mini harvest, monitor it first, and be sure that this thing that people are going to eat is healthy enough for them to, for their body and what have you. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. So we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to open the floor also to you to maybe ask some questions. I will give you some time now to think about it, because we also have a lot of people watching from home, and I would love for the three of you to use this opportunity to also think, what is it that you need to continue the amazing work that you're doing, and what is it that people at home maybe can do? Maybe there's someone watching or listening that can be supportive of you, or maybe there's also a call that you want to do to the government. So I would love for each of you to formulate like a call to action, something that you think needs to happen. Can be an individual person, can be a government institution, whatever you think. And maybe we can start with Abigail. And if you have something, if not, I'm also happy to have whoever has something already in your mind to start first, so that the other two people can think a little bit longer.
I think I could go.
Yeah.
So again, I'll just draw from the conversations I had with the women, so as she said, the 24-year-old is actually a very unique case. And when I was thinking about the challenges that they face, number one with the climate crisis is the changing weather patterns. So we used to plant by end of February, that is when you start preparing your land because you're expecting rains to come. But then, for example, this year when we were celebrating Easter, which was in April, most of us had not planted because rains didn't come. So it means if you are going to plant 2 seasons of maize, you have to plant it for one. And without knowledge, people won't know to plant drought-resistant crops during those periods of no rain. Another challenge that they expressed was shortage of water. I mean, when it doesn't rain, you definitely do not have water. And you need this water for your plants to prosper. Another challenge that they also expressed is land ownership as well. Like I said, that it's a very unique case. Sometimes you do have land, but especially as a woman, you're not allowed to actually own it and have no control on the farm. So that's another challenge that they expressed. And when I asked their call to action for the government, they really talked about reforestation. They really believe in the power of planting trees, and you can really see how they're doing that in their own farms. For every homestead I visited, there was a tree nursery, and you can see the trees in their own farms. Secondly, they really talked about education and the training, because this information is not with everyone, it's with a selected few who are actually interested. So for some of them said initially they would see their neighbor planting, and then they'd know, well, then it's time to plant. But you see, when you have knowledge and information, you can diversify. You can choose to do groundnuts when there's no rain, because you know it can survive. You can plant sorghum or millet because they're drought resistant. So they also ask for, to have more people come train them and have more capacity building within their communities to ensure that everyone is actually benefiting and it's not just the selected few. And another conversation that we had was on the issue of fertilizers. In Kenya right now, fertilizers had become so expensive, and they're inorganic fertilizers. But you see, if someone has knowledge that they can actually make their own manure at home, it will completely reduce the cost that they have to use to use it in their farms. So that knowledge again is very important, and they were also calling for the government to bring the prices down, and that is for those that are not really aware of the regenerative agriculture that we're talking about. And you said something really important. Let's go back in time, regenerative practices. And I sat here thinking, what did our ancestors do before technology, before machinery, before organic fertilizers. So let's all think about that. And as you said, nature will sort itself out. So let's just go back to what we used to do, and we'll all eat good food, we'll all eat healthy food, and we'll still make a living out of it. Thank you.
Okay, so Habiba became like in the beginning as a knowledge hub. So what is missing now? I need a laboratory for soil and water that will accelerate and facilitate our work. So we have a lot of students, researchers that are coming on Habiba in Nueva. Through the laboratory, it will help us to get the results and then the solutions immediately. This is one. The other big challenge is the water. So my community believed in me, and now we are more than 75 farmers, and through the knowledge that I start to gain, there is a risk because it's overtaking from these wells and the drought is happening. So we need a monitoring system for these wells to understand how it is recharged, the timing, etc. And then we go to the farmer, and as she said, the quantity of the water. So there is another science, which is what is the quantity of the water needed for each plant. There is a science out of that. So how we integrate these two elements, the laboratory and then the monitoring system of the water. Habiba, we are partnered with the Desert Research Center of Egypt and many other universities and organizations like the Ecosystem Restoration, like the Weather Makers, and much more are coming. So we need to be prepared with this laboratory. I see the importance of that for the intern that they are coming, and then they have the results, and then they can send it to their professors. The professor can guide them and tell them this is the action needed. Thank you.
Okay. So, I mean, thank you for allowing me to speak last, because I was thinking of the call to actions in my head. I'm like, okay, quite a number of. So I think I've shared a lot about what I do at the farm. And before I go to our own call to action, I'll just start with this particular call to action that women have, as much as I'm a gender equality advocate, I understand what that means. It means that we both, so not just women now, right? But this particular call for action is for government to ensure that women have access to their farmland. I've been at different gatherings before where a lot of indigenous women share their stories of how they became widows and their husband's brother or whatever you family takes the land from them. This is a land where they've grown their children at the farm, planting with the husband, and the husband died, and they take the land from them. And there's this gender-based violence issue that comes in. If you want the land back, you have to marry me, or you have to, do all of sort. So there is need for us to empower women, to have a strong voice, because we are a key contributor in this space. You need to see women farm. We farm with so much passion. I mean, accolades. If you guys are not going to clap for them, I'll clap for us. Yeah. I mean, I understand that it's a lot of work. I've used this hand on the farmland. My legs have been dirty, the cars have been dirty a lot of times because we drive down to the farm and everywhere is dirty. But we need to empower women. We need to empower women, we need to empower women, we need to empower men, and we need to give them that space to harness the real potential that they have. They have all of the time to be able to solve this food circulation, this food insecurity that we're talking about, just like the woman in Kenya, just like myself, and like many other people. So I'm calling on government to please, kindly, put into consideration how women can have more sustainable access to farmland to continue their farming. Most of them have started already, but they had to stop due to one issue or the other: climate, insurgency, insecurity, and all of these things. Then for us, I think I've actually gone across everything that we do at Green Republic Farms. We do a lot of trainings, even though we are very busy. We do a lot of trainings, we do a lot of education, we do a lot of inclusion. So we don't keep coming to the farm every day and like, oh, you guys are gonna do this now, or you guys are gonna, no. We engage everybody, so you're part of the process. So I think there is need for other farmers to also embrace this system, so that when you're not there, the people that are there, or when they leave, they can also take this knowledge from you and start their own farming. And for young people, this is our time. We're young, right? We're young, we have the energy, we can walk from here to the conference, all right? We can do all of this. So why can't we farm? This is the time for us to embrace that. And we can start as little as home farming, garden farming, anyhow you want it, right? And lastly, we need an enabling environment. We need an enabling environment. We need an enabling environment. When we started our farm, we mapped out how we want to start. Nigeria, we have 6 regions in Nigeria, and we picked one. The reason why we picked one is we want to cut down the emission of transportation. That's another thing. A lot of people farm very far away, and they transport like kilometers away from their farm. So how do we solve this problem? Farm close to the market. That's it. So this is how we're doing it. But it would be more enabling if the government, development partners, every other person can come in and ensure that the market is there for us. People are embracing it. We have more people in this space. But firstly, as farmers, we need to ensure that we're farming close to the market, so that we can cut down on transportation emission, and it would also help us to get closer to the market. So even if you're not able to take your farm produce there, the guys in the market can come and say, I want to pick these things up and go sell at the market. So I mean, those are like my call to action. But in all, this is our time as young people to support the older generation and embrace more sustainable agriculture and farming. Thank you.
Amazing. Wow. I think I could not have made a better closing statement. So thanks a lot for that one. We're almost out of time. We have 3 minutes left. So I would say one question maybe. Maximum 2, I would say.
Hi. Okay, I'm here with a group of students, and you're talking a lot about making farming sexy, and I get the idea that you're trying to make it something that we would want to do, something that's fun and enjoyable and also profitable or, you know, sustainable for yourself. I get that. But I think that maybe the kind of an explanation about what regenerative is, as opposed to monoculture, or maybe even comparing it to permaculture. I know that they might know what farming is, they might have been on one, they might have even harvested some food, they might even have, but I don't know that they would know the science behind or what is the difference when you say regenerative farming, and you talked about it being expensive to set up and to begin because it is a process that has many pieces to it that older farmers don't really want to do. So that's kind of I just kind of want a little bit of an explanation. What is it meaning with regenerative? Can I just go plant a whole bunch of corn and that's okay? Or what am I doing differently that makes it a better choice than just regular farming across the country, which they've always done?
Sure.
Thank you for this important question, because many people, they are using the word and they don't understand what is the difference between all the things. It's very simple. Just we start to rebuild the soil. It's all about the soil. Before we do the agriculture practices, it's like if you are engineer, so you need to have a good foundation first, and then you can make your building. It's the same. We need to regenerate, so we need the soil to rest, to grow, like to be stronger. And once we have a strong, healthy soil, we'll have a strong, healthy crop or plants, and then it's enter on the cycle. And then the insects, the predator, everything will be more strong. So regenerative farming, it's about stepping back, giving the environment, the land to have the time to be strong, and all the microorganism and the whole system working in harmony together, and then the job is already done.
And maybe to add to that one, for people which are interested, there's an amazing documentary out there called Kiss the Ground. You can find it online, you can find it on Netflix, and it explains in 90 minutes with Woody Harrelson's voice very nicely in detail what regenerative agriculture is.
Good afternoon. I'm Sophia and I'm from Brazil. And I have a question for you all. So since you were talking about the solutions to reach the sustainable farming, in my school in Brazil, which is Colégio Magno, we have a system of aquaponics, which is this combination of pisciculture, fish farming with the hydroponics. So I want to know what you all think about it, if you have thought about implementing it in your communities, if you think it's worth it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, for us at the farm, hydroponic is like a future plan. For us, as I mentioned, we're using open field farming, but we're envisioning hydroponics for some later years. However, in Nigeria, we have quite a number of young people who are already doing that. I know of soilless farmers, they do that. And what they also do is they bring young people from universities and some women to train them on how to develop that and how to start it in their own environment. So yeah.
This is also very good question, because there is also a lot of talks. But aquaponic is good. But what we are implementing now in Habiba, in the cooperation with the weather makers, we are creating the eco-oasis. So the fish, it's a part, but there is different other elements. So I invite you also to go to the website of the weather makers and to understand about the eco-oasis. And also there is a scientist, John Todd, that he started the living machine. So it's integration of different elements. It's not only the fish. Last thing I would like to add, that we have a winter school in December in Nueva. You are also welcome to come and join the winter schools in cooperation with different entities, and it's hands-on experience more than lectures.
I think we are out of time. We're already a little bit over time. So, but I mean, we will all be here, so you can also ask questions one-on-one or in person. And thank you all for coming, and thank you all for speaking and sharing your knowledge. It was a big pleasure to be here.